Thank you. So my story tonight is about my mother, because we all know that mothers are great material for stories. But my mother is a treasure trove because my mother is an immigrant. My mother was born in post-World War II Denmark in the year 1943, or as she would say, 1943. The poor woman has lived in the United States for over 50 years and cannot manage the TH sound, which is unfortunate because her name is Ruth. So, like many immigrants to the United States, my mom has developed a character and a personality based on the experiences that she had growing up in her country. So Denmark, right after World War II, was actually operated a lot more like a country a century ago because they were so depleted from the war. And my mom has wonderful stories about riding down to the dairy to get her milk, and riding over to the cobbler to get her shoes fixed, and taking the Viking ship to Sweden. That one's not true, but it basically could have been. So she had all of these super great experiences, and they helped to develop the person that she became. And she brought to the United States and exemplified to me and my siblings characters and qualities such as hard work and perseverance and diligence. My mother never wastes time. She never wastes energy. She never wastes talent. She never wastes time on words such as, "You're doing a great job." She never wastes time on words such as, "I'm proud of you," or "I love you." Now, I don't want this to come across as I don't like my mother, because I absolutely adore my mother. But she was very, very direct, and she was absolutely uninterested in developing any relationships with anyone. So if you ever met my mother, she would have no problem coming up to you and not knowing your name, but telling you that you looked fatter than the time she had seen you before. Or to point out to you that your outfit was not flattering to your figure. So I grew up in Northern Virginia, but I went to Utah for college, and I made really, really wonderful friends out there. And 3 of them were from the West Coast, and they decided to come back with me after our freshman year, and they spent 4 days with us. They were very enthusiastic and energetic girls from the West Coast, and then they got to my house, and I introduced them to my mom. My mom basically said, "Here's your room. Dinner is at 6, and then walked away. My most enthusiastic roommate said to me, "I am gonna make her my friend." And I said to her name was Heather, "Good luck. I promise you that is not gonna happen. I've lived with her for 18 years, and I have no idea if she is my friend." So for the next 4 days, the 4 of us went around and did a bunch of different sites around Washington, D.C., and we came home promptly at 6 for dinner with my mother, where Heather did her very best to engage her in any kind of conversation to develop a relationship. So we sat down the first night, and Heather said to my mom, "Ruth, today we rollerbladed around Washington, D.C. It was really fun. What did you do today?" To which my mom replied, "Well, today Frisky and I worked on my quilt, and we watched some Masterpiece Theater." To which my roommates looked at me, and they're like, "Who's Frisky?" Frisky is our cat, and the Frisky and I that my mom used all the time was basically code for my mom was doing an activity, and my cat happened to be in the room with her at the same time. So the next day, we come home for dinner, and Heather says to my mom, "Ruth, today we had a really fun time in Harper's Ferry. It was so beautiful, and we went tubing down the river. What did you do today?" "Well, today Frisky and I, we worked in the yard, and I am just so frustrated. There are so many Japanese beetles on my roses, and I'm gonna give Frisky 1 Skittle for every Japanese beetle she removes." And I said, "You're gonna give Frisky Skittles?" And at this point in my family's history, the only people living at home were my mom, my cat Frisky, and my poor brother Quincy, who not only was a highly underpaid day laborer, receiving only 1 Skittle for every Japanese beetle, but who was constantly confused with our cat. So on day 3 of Heather's desperate attempt to make friends with my mom, she's like, "So today, Ruth, today we went to the outlet malls. It was so fun. We got lots of beautiful stuff. What'd you do today, Ruth?" "Well, today I went up and I cleaned and I vacuumed with Frisky your rooms. You girls are very messy. Frisky and I had to spend a ton of time cleaning up your rooms." And the fourth and final day, we actually didn't go anywhere. We stayed home with my mom, and we canned peaches with her. She spent an enormous amount of time telling us how we were doing it wrong. And then quietly and silently, Frisky entered the room, padded across the floor, jumped up onto the counter, jumped up again onto a little TV that was sitting there, and Heather knew her chance was here. She turned to my mom and she said, "Hey Ruth, look, Frisky is helping us can peaches." To which my mom turned to her and said, "Cats don't know how to can peaches." And while my mom continued to berate us and the poor job we were doing, not only at canning the peaches, but dating and all those various aspects, our weight, Heather stood there and mumbled under her breath, "But they can mow the lawn, and they can they can vacuum the car, and they know how to quilt." Thank you. Thank you.